In North America, the history of cemeteries and burial practices have drastically shifted. After the Civil War, practices went from in-home funerals, and post-war, things changed to the traditional burial practices as we know them today. Other cultures have much more healthier and natural ways of dealing with the deceased. In Sulawesi, in Indonesia, the Toran people keep their past loved ones in their homes until a proper celebration can be carried out. In the meantime, the ones that are deceased are referred to the ones who are sleeping.
In contrast, in the United States, taking care of the dead is often an incredibly impersonal experience, and these processes are often terrible for the environment. Cremation, on average, produces the carbon emissions of 2 tanks of gas, and traditional caskets are often made with materials such as metal, varnished wood, and synthetic fibers that either do not break down easily or tarnish the environment. The traditional methods of embalming are also harmful as well.
Formaldehyde is a chemical used in the embalming process to preserve the corpse, especially to look presentable for the wake service and funerals. Once they are lowered into the ground, these chemicals seep into the environment and cause serious damage to the soil in those burial grounds and surrounding. Even though there is a rise of interest in eco-friendly burials, the former is still the most used method of how people, especially in North America, handle the dead. Biodegradable bamboo woven caskets, cremation, and ashes being used as fertilizer to grow a tree or become a memento held by their loved ones are a couple methods of eco-friendly.
When people try to talk about these issues, it's often met with disgust, unease, or discomfort, or often just plain cynicism. Most of the time, folks just aren't ready to talk about death. When people choose a non-traditional burial method, loved ones left behind struggle with the fact that they might not get the closure they'd planned on. How can we help people feel more comfortable with our part in the cycle of life, merging something personal with something that will replenish the earth?
One thing that American culture can learn from Western culture's views on life and death is that non-Western cultures look at life as more cyclical, while Western culture looks at life more linear, like it's an end. Because non-Western cultures truly never look at death as a complete end, they have a more positive relationship with the event. Our service is a step to honoring that cycle and allowing yourself to be a part of it in a personalized way.
What will be created is clothing that is all natural and engineered to aid mycelium growth post-mortem to replace traditional casket and embalming, but that's also comfortable and psychologically easy to digest for both the wearer and the family left behind. Oyster mushrooms are actually ideal because they can be taught to feed off of both human bodies, heavy metals, and any other toxins that might be found within the body. To start the process, a person would work directly with the designer to tell them what kind of clothing they want, the material, and even color that they would want to be buried in. The clothing created could be worn during life, or it could be saved to be worn after death. The option to wear it during life and having it be something personalized by the wearer creates a more intimate connection with what is to come. If this were to be manifested in real life, it would most likely be aimed at the elderly, folks with terminal illnesses, or anyone who's in a mindset of planning for those next steps. But ideally, this would be an option for all. The materials used would be a hemp and wool combination. Hemp is sustainable and grows quickly, and it provides a cellulose-rich nutrient bed for the mycelium to grow. Wool naturally retains moisture and would be ideal for the humid conditions needed to grow the spores. All the materials would be woven or knit in such a way that would aid the growth of the roots in the mycelium. One of the things that makes clothing also so personal is color. The dyes used would be all natural and ideally from sources high in glucose, so the spores have another source of sugars to feed on. But the dye mixture itself could contain added sugars. There would be limitations in colors and prints because of the sources available. This is an example of an outfit someone might choose. A cable knit sweater is actually knit in a pattern that mimics mycelium growth. The pants are woven and textured, another bed conducive to growth. All clothing would be transformative, with places to expand and cover the entire body when the time comes, such as hidden seams or expanding cuffs. The ribbing you see is lightweight and mimics the gills of the mushroom. So here's actually a close-up of the gills of the oyster mushroom and how it influenced the design of the sweater. The sweater itself, in this illustration, was dyed with berries, and the pants would be dyed with beets.
An example of a hemp material dress dyed violet by red cabbage.
Once a wake or a viewing has happened, the clothing could be transformed, the body would be placed in a controlled environment, and the mycelium and spores would be activated to grow and encase the body. Ideally, this would be part of a kind of larger-than-life system in this new world of green funeral homes. Even without chemicals, it's possible to hold a traditional wake. Refrigeration can preserve and slow decay for multiple days, enough time for loved ones to make arrangements and plans. Makeup containing microscopic spores can be used to give the face a more lifelike appearance, while still aiming to the final process. The building itself would run on clean and renewable energy, especially because of the amount of energy required for refrigeration, humidity and climate control, and water use. The inside would be filled with plants and greenery to provide fresh air and energizing life, and the building itself would be rounded to symbolize the cyclical nature of life. At the end of the day, this is a way for people to choose a practice that is helpful, not harmful to the environment, in a way that isn't too forward or uncomfortable. Loved ones can carry through some traditions that bring them comfort, while the deceased don't have to sacrifice personality or environmental responsibility. The nature of this deliberate planning and consulting not only is grounding in the reality of life and death, but gives people peace of mind knowing their body will be taken care of once they are gone.